Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rizky Asyahri Setiabudiarto, and I want to present my poem classification. This is my content of this presentation, and this is my poem. My poem is To Touch the Untouched by Silent One. She is soothing music, but an unwritten script. A silent movie, but visually cinematic elegance. Infatuated lyric thirst to compose undertones of her curves. Her tongue is a sensual dance, a serenade of sensitive sensations. Her lips a path to pristine passion, her eyes a gateway to heaven. But she is grandeur of purity, a distinction of innocence. Faith must learn patience in the pursuit of desire. And this is the poem classification. To touch the untouched poem is a free verse type of poem. What is free verse poem? Free verse is verse in line of irregular length, rhyming very irregularly. Such poems are without rhythm and rhyme scheme. Don't follow regular rhyme scheme rules, but it still provides artistic expression. In this way, the poet can give his own shape to a poem with desires. However, it still allows poet to use alliteration, rhyme, cadence, and rhythm to get the effects that they consider are suitable for the piece. Before we look at few examples of free verse, it's important to note that it can be easily confused with blank verse, a different category of poetry. Verse poetry is poetry that has both of consistent matter and a rhyme scheme. Blank verse is poetry based on unrhymed lines and a definite matter, usually of iambic pentameter. Both blank verse and free verse are free from rhyme scheme, but whereas blank verse does have a consistent matter, usually iambic pentameter, that creates a do-dum rhythm effect. Free verse is free from both matter and rhyme. It is free from the limitation of verse poetry. Poem classification. Free verse is commonly used in contemporary poetry. Some poets have taken this technique as a freedom from rhythm and rhyme, because it changes people's mind whimsically. Therefore, free verse is also called verse libre. The best thing about free verse is that poets can imagine the forms of any sound through intonation instead of matters. Free verse gives a greater freedom for choosing words and conveying their meanings to the audience. Since it depends upon pattern elements like sounds, phrase, sentence, and words, it is free of artificiality of typical poetic expression. Characteristic of free verse. First is repetition, often with variation, patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables, alliteration, occasional internal rhyme, rhyme occurring inside line, occasional rhyme at the ends of lines, often imperfect rhymes such as half rhymes and para rhymes, patterns of assonance, syllable in which the vowel sounds are the same, and imagery. Aesthetic of poem. Results show that the vividness of mental imagery was the best predictor of aesthetic appeal. Poems that evoke greater imagery were more pleasing. Emotional violence also predict aesthetic appeal, though to a lesser extent. Specifically, poems that were found to be more positive were generally found to be more appealing. By contrast, emotional arousal did not have a clear relationship to aesthetic appeal. In To Touch the Untouched poem, the aesthetic element is come from the play of word and word selection, and how good the author described the feelings of imagery scene, like her tongue is a sensual dance, a serenade of sensitive sensation. Even we never do that, but the author can make us feel her tongue, what it feels like. In addition, this poem is also have a deep meaning. It about this woman and how How he described her in a wonderful world. Examples: she is soothing music but an unwritten script. Poetic experience. I have experienced the similar kind like the author has felt, describing how beautiful a woman, in this case, it can be his girlfriend or wife. In the part, her lips are path to Christian passion, her eyes a gateway to heaven. He describes the woman's lips. When he looks at her lips, he thinks of heaven. I have experienced this type of love, and I praise a woman that I like with a wonderful choice of words, and it describes how beautiful she was. My favorite part of the sentence is faith must learn patience in the pursuit of desire. In this sentence, the author wants to tell us that we can only trust the fate in the end, even after all we have done. The fate will decide our desires' result. And in the fate must learn patience, the author indirectly said that even fate must learn to be patient. Moreover, ordinary human like us. Semantics poem. Semantics is the study of language, its meaning, and how it's used differently around the world. This is auditory language as well as gestures and signs. For example, one gesture in a Western country could mean something completely different in an Eastern country, or vice versa. Semantics also requires a knowledge of how meaning is built over time and words change while influencing one another. In To Touch the Untouched, he said her lips appeared to present passion, her eyes a gateway to heaven. The sentence is semantics. He said a figurative language that we have to uncover it, and it's hard to make a meaning of this sentence. It symbolizes her eyes as a gate to heaven. It is an abstract symbolize and metaphor. Thank you. That's all for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.